Okay, so let's jump right in. Today, we're taking a look at a book that, for a lot of people, became a kind of manual for the spiritual warfare movement. It came out way back in 1987. It's called Prepare for War by RebeccaBrown, MD, and it lays out this entire worldview where the spiritual and the physical are just locked in this constant hidden battle.
Right from the get-go, the book opens with this quote from the prophet Joel, and, it just perfectly sets the stage. The whole idea here isn't about peace, it's about active, ongoing conflict. It's basically a call to arms for a war that the author argues is happening all around us, whether we can see it or not. All right, so if we're going to understand this whole war thing, we first have to get a handle on the battlefield itself. And according to the book, the problem really starts right at the beginning, with humanity's spiritual condition after what it calls the fall.
So check out this illustration. This is how the author visualizes humanity's original design. The book says that before the fall, Adam's soul, his mind, his will, was in command of both a physical body and a spiritual body. And this setup created this direct, conscious connection for open communication with God.
But then the fall happened. And the book argues this caused a spiritual death, which completely severed that direct line to God. Now, this is the really crucial point. A vacuum was created. And into that vacuum, Satan could then build what the author calls a corrupt link, opening up this new and very dangerous connection straight to the demonic realm and the occult.
So you've got this corrupt link in place. The next question is, how does it actually get exploited? Well, the book argues that the enemy gets into our lives through what it calls deceptive doorways, and often in ways we would absolutely never expect.
The main way this happens, according to the book, is through this concept of doorways. The author defines these as specific activities or objects or even beliefs that basically give demons legal permission to come in and have influence over a person or their home.
And here's the real core of the warning in Prepare for War. These doorways are not always obvious. In fact, the book argues that the most effective ones are actually disguised as harmless, totally mainstream, or even healthy cultural practices. The biggest dangers are often hidden in plain sight.
So what kind of everyday dangers are we talking about here? Well, the book lays out a whole range of examples, and I gotta say, some of them might really surprise you.
Okay, take yoga, for example. From the book's perspective, this isn't just exercise. The author actually identifies the sun salutation sequence, which you see illustrated here, as a series of worship postures to the sun god Baal. So the physical act is seen as a spiritual one that opens a demonic door. And it's a very similar story with martial arts. The book claims that things like judo and karate aren't just about self-defense. The yells, those are described as incantations, and the specific hand motions, which it says are called runing in the occult, are supposedly a form of sign language used to summon demons.
Now, this slide is really interesting because it gets to a key principle in the book. It's comparing a Hindu mala on the left with a Catholic rosary on the right. The author's argument is that the mechanism is exactly the same. Any kind of repetitive prayer or chanting that's designed to empty the mind creates a state that, it claims, invites demonic influence.
And believe me, the list just keeps going. The book warns against rock music because of its repetitive choruses acting like mantras. It points to the fantasy game Dungeons & Dragons for using visualization, and it even includes therapeutic techniques like biofeedback and subliminal tapes, all of which are seen as ways to open the mind to dangerous spiritual forces.
The book also tries to explain some well-known occult phenomena. It presents the classic image of a witch on a broomstick not as some fairy tale, but as a symbolic way of showing a real practice called astral projection, which is the act of the human spirit consciously leaving the physical body. And what about moving objects with your mind? The book explains telekinesis using this diagram here. The idea is the witch wills the table to rise, which commands their own spirit body. That spirit, with the help of a summoned demon, then physically moves the object. It's presented as this partnership between human will and demonic power. So after pages and pages of identifying all these hidden threats, the book makes a big shift. It goes from describing the problem to offering a solution. It really becomes a practical manual with a clear strategy for how to fight back in this spiritual war.
This verse from Ephesians is absolutely central to the book's solution. It's all about equipping yourself with spiritual armor, not just to attack, but to defend the ground you've already won and to simply be able to stand against the onslaught.
So the book lays out this very clear 5-step plan of action. First, you make a total commitment of your life to God. Second, you confess any sins that might have opened these doorways. Third, you anoint your house with oil for spiritual protection. Fourth, you physically get rid of any objects tied to the occult, like the rock music or yoga mats we talked about. And finally, you use the authority of Jesus' name to command any demonic spirits to get out.
But, and this is a really important point the author makes, this isn't some one-and-done fix. Spiritual warfare is presented as an ongoing lifestyle. It requires constant vigilance and the discipline to keep a spiritually clean life and home.
At the end of the day, what's all this for? The book frames this entire daily battle within the context of eternal consequences. The stakes really couldn't be any higher. It's a war for your very soul.
This little cartoon from the book, I think, just perfectly illustrates what the author sees as the fundamental choice. In the top panel, you've got a person demanding blessings from God. But in the bottom panel, you see a person in total submission. For the author, real spiritual power doesn't come from demanding things. It comes from surrender.
And that really brings us to the core message of the entire book. In the worldview of Prepare for War, there are no neutral actions. The music you listen to, the exercises you do, the games you play, every single choice is a move on a cosmic chessboard, and it all has eternal stakes.
Which kind of leaves us with this final thought to chew on. Regardless of what you or I might believe, books like this really show how powerfully an unseen belief system can completely reframe the visible everyday world, turning something mundane into something meaningful, and something harmless into a serious threat.